The 1960s were a turbulent set of years. A decade marked by Cold War espionage, violent proxy wars, and powers who reached for the stars. In the background of all of this, several civil rights issues were at the forefront across several countries. The United States is the major example, but down south, Mexico was experiencing their own push for more civil rights. A group calling themselves the Movimiento Estudiantil, Spanish for the Mexican Student Movement, was a group of protesters mostly made of college students, but also consisted of teachers and other workers across the country. The group's goal was to obtain more civil rights, specifically applying to the nation's voting processes. The president at the time was a man named Gustavo Díaz Ordaz, a member of the Institutional Revolutionary Party, the IRP. The IRP held power over the nation for an unprecedented amount of time, 71 years. This stretched from 1929 to 2000, but we will discuss events that took place in 1968. Not only were students in this time upset at the widespread reach of power coming from the IRP, they were also upset with the party's spending. The Olympics were coming to the country's capital of Mexico City, and Ordaz, along with the IRP, sprung to build an elaborate stadium to host the games, while neglecting the needs of the nation's many. This added fuel to a fire that sparked a group of protests that began in July. They stretched on for months, and we reach a pivotal day, October 2nd, 1968. In 10 days, the Olympics would begin. Thousands of students were gathered at the Plaza de las Tres Culturas, located in Tianquilloco. The gathering was massive, and the crowd chanted, "We don't want Olympics, we want revolution." The Mexican government wanted to portray a stable image to the world stage, so President Ordaz ordered soldiers to the plaza. Some 5,000, alongside 200 tanks, were sent to break the protest up, and it quickly turned violent. The soldiers opened fire, and upwards of 500 people were killed. The Olympics went on like normal. The day the massacre took place, a reporter by the name of Jacob Zabielowski went on the air like normal, and he began his broadcast by saying this: "Hoy fue un día soleado," Spanish for "today was a sunny day." There was no acknowledgement of the events that transpired. The words spoken were an attempt to minimalize what did take place, likely directed from Ordaz himself. Despite this broadcast has not surfaced today. Some dispute whether or not it even happened. Some claim Jacobo didn't get a television program until the 1970s, while others claim that these words were spoken over the radio. Regardless of what did happen, the "Today was a sunny day" broadcast is just one piece of history's darkest lost media.
Touch right to the boring man, all the humanity and all the fans screaming about it.
Happy Halloween, everyone, even if we are a few weeks early. I love doing a few spooky videos for this season, and we have our first one today. You may notice that this is a part 2. That's because last year, we did a part 1. It's linked both on screen and in the description if you're interested. While you're down there, make sure to check out my other socials and maybe consider subscribing. We are just under 5,000 subscribers away from 50,000. I would love to hit that by the end of the year, so consider helping me out. Enough yapping, let's cover a few more pieces of dark lost media. On January 16th, 1936, the electric chair at the Sing Sing prison in New York City sparked alive as it took the life of a convicted criminal. On this day, one of the most despicable, gruesome men to ever walk the earth was put to death. This man was Albert Fish, a serial killer who was known to the press as the Gray Man. He earned this nickname from his appearance, resembling a dull, lifeless, ghostly figure. He was first called this by the mother of Frances McDonald, one of his victims. When her son went missing, she reported that a strange man was lurking around, stating that everything about him seemed faded and gray. Albert Fish targeted children, where he would conduct some of the most heinous acts imaginable. After he was finished, he would kill and then eat his victims. He was an active serial killer between the years of 1924 to 1932. We know of at least 3 people he killed, but in the years since his own death, he's been linked to several other disappearances and deaths. Fish would sometimes mock his victims through means of letters, writing to the victims' families, detailing his crimes extensively. Due to this, Fish was caught. A letter he sent was investigated, and it was found to have a small hexagon on it, with the letters NYPCBA, which represented the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. The police investigated the company, where it was found that Fish had previously stayed in the building. A short trail later led to Fish's arrest, where he would confess to all of his murders. After he went on trial, he was sentenced to death to be carried out by electric chair, which was carried out on January 16, 1936. After all of this was said and done, his attorney, James Dempsey, revealed that Fish had written him a few letters in the leading hours to his execution. We have no idea what these letters said. Dempsey never revealed their contents to the public and only told the press, "I will never show it off to anyone. It was the most filthy string of obscenities that I have ever read." This was all he said on them. This is one piece of lost media I believe should stay lost. It's a very sad fact that every year across the globe, upwards of 700,000 people choose to take their own life. Most of the time, these are people who are by themselves, but other times, people choose to do it very publicly. This next entry discusses the first time someone ever recorded the action. On September 24th, 1908, a man living in Trelon, France would tragically take his own life using a revolver. When the police found the man's body in his home, he was slumped over in a chair, with the camera facing his lifeless form. The reels were confiscated by the police for their investigation, and the footage showed it all. The man, holding a revolver, as he looked around for a chair to sit in. After finding one, he loaded the revolver and sat in silent contemplation for a moment, after which, he stood up and approached his wardrobe, where he stared at himself in the mirror, before he raised his revolver and took his own life. This story was popular in the French newspapers, and it even received coverage in Germany, Australia, and the United States. But the film itself was never seen outside of the police precinct. For the man himself, there are no known details of who he was. His name was never released, and the incident as a whole fell into a quick obscurity, leaving us only to wonder as to why he did what he did. As we were coming into the early 1900s, the world of film production got wild. It was still a relatively new practice, and different studios were fighting for original ideas. Most of the films made during this time were a genre called actuality films. Stuff with a simple title that explains exactly what the video is about. For example, the current film on screen, Train Arriving at Leeds Station. One of the major film companies at this time was the International Film Company, the IFC. This was a studio made up of former employees from Vitascope and Thomas Edison's production company. Edison is particularly relevant, as the IRC thought the best way to sell their films was to rip off exactly what Edison was making. Disturbingly so, the films that Edison were selling well at this time were blood sport films, a subgenre of actuality films that showed off violent acts. One such film made by Edison was Lynching of a Horse Thief, and the film we are talking about today is a genuine lynching scene, made to rival Edison's own movie. All we know about this movie comes from a book titled The International Photographic Films, 1897 to 1898, which lists every movie made by the IRC, which includes a genuine lynching scene. The film was listed at 75 feet, and details of its contents were included. A riot was forming at a Texas jail cell, where an unknown prisoner was awaiting execution. The crowd grew more wild, even as the sheriff tried to hold them back. These efforts failed, and the crowd managed to get a hold of the man, when they took justice into their own hands. This film was incredibly popular in the North, as lynchings were banned there, and people were curious to watch them. The film was sold for $15 apiece, a modern-day equivalent of $564. Some people do debate whether or not this film was real. Some believe the IFC faked the actual lynching on film. The company at this time did have a bit of a con man's reputation. When the USS Maine was sunk on February 15, 1898, the IFC sold supposed footage of the ship before it sunk. This instead was an entirely different ship. A genuine lynching scene, much like most of the IFC's works, are lost today. No copies were preserved. While we're at it, we have another actuality film released by the IFC of a similar disturbing incident. The next film we will discuss is entitled Drowning Scene at Rockaway. It too was listed in their catalog of films for sale, and its contents were also posted. A cameraman for the IFC was walking alongside Rockaway Beach, located in New York. It's here where he witnessed two boats collide into one another. These boats capsized, throwing 4 individuals into the waters below. The tide was incredibly strong, and it threw these 4 all around. And they allegedly drowned. This was all captured on camera, but again, the legitimacy of these claims have been challenged. For one, the identity of these supposed victims has never been revealed. There was no report of their deaths in New York's newspapers, which leads some to believe that the IFC lied about their fates in an attempt to sell more copies of their films. This is in line with their other conman practices. It's a similar story to the lynching scene. This film has been lost alongside most of the IFC's catalog. On February 3rd, 1998, a United States Marine Corps EA-6B Prowler aircraft was conducting a low-altitude training mission. The aircraft was being piloted by Captain Richard Ashby and Navigator Joseph Schweitzer. The pair was flying through the Dolomites mountain range in northeast Italy at an incredibly low range. Military regulation states that aircrafts should not dip below 1,000 feet. Ashby and Schweitzer were at 262 feet. In this area sits the town of Cavalese, a popular ski resort that brings in visitors from all over Europe. The Prowler aircraft was flying over the ski resort when disaster would strike. The pair were flying at speeds of 540 miles per hour and were going between a set of mountain ranges. This mountain range was where one of the Cavalese cable cars was suspended. Because of this, the plane's right wing struck the top of the cables, snapping them, sending a cabin plunging towards the earth. It fell 260 feet, claiming the lives of all 20 people on board. The aircraft sustained minor wing and tail damage and was able to return to their airbase. A trial and investigation would soon begin, where Ashby and Schweitzer were both charged with 20 counts of involuntary manslaughter and negligent homicide. They argued that their navigation equipment in the plane was inaccurate, as it did not show the cables on the map. Ashby also claimed that his altimeter was malfunctioning, leading to their low-laying flight paths. This was enough to acquit both men, but a further investigation revealed something far more disturbing and incriminating, as Ashby and Schweitzer were not the only ones on the plane. 2 others were on board, and they came forward. These men were Charles Seagraves and William Ramey. They received testimonial immunity, electing to reveal what really happened. They revealed that a camera was on board, recording the 4 of them throughout their flight path. Italian officials attempted to review this footage, where they were greeted by a black screen. The tape was destroyed. Upon questioning Ashby and Schweitzer, they confirmed that a camera was on board, and they were the ones responsible for its destruction. Ashby claimed that upon landing at the airbase, he gave the tape to Schweitzer, and he threw it onto a bonfire. The pair stated that there was no footage that would incriminate them, as they simply wanted to record the scenery of the Italian mountains. But in the beginning of the tape, the pair were laughing and joking about their upcoming flight, and fears that this footage of their joyous selves would be placed alongside the gruesome scenery of the Cavalese cable car disaster. Ashby was sentenced to 6 months in prison and was dismissed from the Marines. There is no way to recover this tape, as there was only 1 copy, and it was burnt in a bonfire. On January 5th, 1966, a TV show called Softly Softly premiered on the BBC. It ran until 1969. airing a total of 120 episodes. Of this list, 83 are missing today. While we are discussing a piece of lost media from this show, it is not one of the episodes. It was a behind-the-scenes film. On November 1st, 1966, 2 months before the premiere, a stuntman by the name of Keith Peacock was set to film a scene. He had a bit of a reputation for tackling stunts others would not do. Previously, he crashed a car at 70 miles per hour, coming out completely unharmed. Due to this reputation, he was contacted by the BBC to perform a stunt for their new police drama, Softly Softly, a spin-off of the popular show Z Cars. Peacock was happy to accept this job. The stunt entailed him falling off the top of a ladder to land on a mattress placed below. Peacock's manager later said that this would be a very simple stunt, something easily accomplished by the experienced stuntman. The act was carried out at 1:50 a.m., and he did as instructed. He fell off the back of a ladder, but missed the mattress entirely. He smacked his skull into the concrete floor, cracking it. The fall was from 15 feet, and he was taken to the hospital where he would pass away soon after. Fingers were pointed back and forth. The studio claimed that Peacock threw himself too far forward, while Peacock's family and manager said the mattress was not placed in its correct spot. Keith's final stunt was recorded, and during a trial, the tape was shown off to a jury, to which they decided the death was an accident and that no one was at fault. This scene was shown off in its entirety, but was not seen afterwards. The studio never released the footage themselves, and the scene that was supposed to be in the actual television episode was written out. Magedelana De La Riva was one of the most famous figures across all of the Philippines. She got her start on the radio, but did transition to film and television. Unfortunately, her name would be in the Philippine press for a much darker reason. In the late hours of June 16th, 1967, 4 men would follow her home. They were Rogelio Canal, Edgardo Aquino, Jaime Jose, and Basilio Pineda Jr. These 3 men met Basilio at a nightclub, where he revealed that he confessed his love to Maggie, who was previously there, and that she was then going to finish a late-night recording at her studio. They decided to meet her at her studio. At 4:30 in the morning, the men arrived in Jaime Jose's red Pontiac, where they honked the horn at Maggie, who was being driven by her assistant. They sped up to get away, which led to them wrecking. From here, the 4 men fought off her assistant and grabbed Maggie, kidnapping her. While in their custody, the 4 men would assault her repeatedly throughout the entire night, after which they dropped her off at the Philippines Free Press building, threatening her to stay quiet, and that if she revealed what happened, they would post bail and hunt her down to finish the job. After which, they flagged down a cab and ordered the driver to drive her back to her house. The next morning, Maggie and her family would immediately report the incident to the police. This led to the 4 men being arrested, and after a short trial, they were found guilty, where President Ferdinand Marcos would step in. He ordered all 4 of them to be executed via electric chair, which in turn would be broadcast live across the entire country. Canal never made it to the chair, as he would overdose in prison 3 months later. As for the other 3, they would be executed on May 17, 1972. And as President Marcos wanted, this was broadcast across both radio and television in the country. Despite this, neither a radio broadcast or television recording has surfaced. Neither were preserved. While some people claim they do remember watching the execution live on TV, the radio broadcast only covered the leading moments up to the execution, not the actual execution itself. Regardless of this, neither format has survived into today. And we reach our final entry for today, and in terms of lives lost, it may be our most tragic story today. On November 29th, 1987, Korean Flight 858 was en route from Saddam International Airport in Baghdad, Iraq, to Gimpo International Airport in Seoul, South Korea, a destination they would never make it to. Between the start and end points of the flight, the airplane was scheduled to stop at Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, and a follow-up stop in Bangkok, Thailand. The plane made it to Abu Dhabi and took off at 1 minute past UTC. 4 hours and 21 minutes later, the plane exploded. The plane was 18 miles away from Burma when it headed straight for the Andaman Sea. All 115 people on board, mostly South Korean nationals, were killed. Following this tragedy, investigations began, which led to this story being pieced together. The explosion was caused by 2 North Korean intelligence agents, Kim Hyung-hae and Kim Sung-il. They posed as a father-daughter duo traveling the world, of course using fake passports. After receiving the explosive from another North Korean agent on November 27th, they traveled from Yugoslavia to Baghdad, where they awaited Flight 858. Once it arrived, the pair boarded and planted their bomb in their overhead compartments. When the plane landed in Abu Dhabi, they left. Previously, they rigged the bomb to blow in 9 hours, 5 hours after they would leave the plane. They then attempted to fly to Jordan, but airport officials noticed their passports were forgeries. Realizing they were caught, they both ingested cyanide. This killed Kim Sung-il, but only hospitalized Kim Hyung-hae. She was tried across several different countries, including a council in front of the United Nations, and she would be sentenced to death in South Korea, but the president would later pardon her. This is because Kim was shown what life in South Korea was really like, and she realized it was nothing compared to the propaganda she had heard before. She cooperated and said, "Forgive me, I am sorry. I will tell you everything." She then revealed her story. If we back up to the actual flight for a moment, the plane's black box was never recovered. This would have recorded the entire flight path, including the takeoff, the explosion, and the subsequent crash into the Andaman Sea. This contains the only recording of the incident, and it remains lost, buried deep in the waters below. And here we are. I hope you enjoyed a bit of a shorter video today. I've got a longer, much more in-depth video coming out at the end of the month, and I hope you all will be excited for that one. Again, subscribe if you liked what you saw. We're nearing 50,000, and I would love to hit it by the end of the year. But that's it for me today. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.